remember, last year around Christmas time, I made a video about Home Alone. And let me tell you, people were really not having that one. So this year I decided it would be a great idea to do Home Alone 2, Lost in New York. Now this is another one of those 90s movies that was so popular, just so ubiquitous. And you know, something I never realized or cared about until now, I guess, is both Home Alone 1 and 2 were written by John Hughes. I mean, National Lampoon, 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, and Home Alone. But anyway, let's check in and see what kind of wacky adventures the McAllisters are getting into this time. So Home Alone 2 starts out pretty much just like Home Alone 1, with everyone all having a kerfuffle as they get ready to take another Christmas vacation, because, you know, that worked out so well the first time, why not do it again?
Honey, are you packed yet? Yes. Yes. Oh, did you see what Grandma Penelope sent you for the trip?
Let me guess. Donald Duck slippers?
Close. An inflatable clown to play with in the pool.
Yeah, that's normal. Definitely nothing weird about a 10-year-old kid hanging out in the pool all by himself with a blow-up clown doll, just like... Now, something else this movie really wants you to be aware of is the toy Kevin's holding right here. This was the Talk Boy, which was literally just a tape recorder with a microphone. That's it. That was the whole toy. And back in the early to mid-90s, like, this was the hottest toy on the street.
Now you can be as clever as Kevin with Tiger's new Talk Boy tape recorder.
Stop drooling on me. Stop drooling on me.
I mean, really, the apex of comedy when you were a 90s kid was when one of your friends had one of these, and you all took turns passing it around like butt crack. Butt crack. Anyway, so like I said, they're trying to get ready for their next vacation. But this time, instead of a trip to Paris, the McAllister family is heading off to the much more exotic and infinitely more bizarre Florida.
Why do we have to go to Florida? There's no Christmas trees in Florida.
Kevin, what is it with you and Christmas trees?
How could you have Christmas without a Christmas tree, Mom?
Well, find a nice fake silver one. Or decorate a palm tree.
So that night is the school Christmas concert, and Kevin's in the same choir as his much older brother Buzz for some reason. And when it comes time for Kevin to sing his solo, Buzz puts his little candle things behind Kevin's ears, which is apparently just the funniest gosh darn thing these boomers have ever seen. And then, you know, Kevin figures out what's going on, he gets angry, punches Buzz, SpaghettiOs, and guess who's the only one who gets in trouble?
I'm not sorry. I did what I did because Buzz humiliated me. And since he gets away with everything, I'll let him have it. And since you're also stupid to believe his lies, I don't care if your idiotic Florida trip gets wrecked or not. Who wants to spend Christmas in a tropical climate anyway?
And so, once again, Kevin has to go sleep up in the attic. I think I'm noticing a pattern with these movies here. Now, the next morning, we once again get to meet the true villain of these movies, clocks. You see, because Kevin's dad unplugged something the night before, the one clock in the entire house apparently gets reset, which of course causes everyone in the family to oversleep. And as usual, everyone rushes to get ready and out the door, and guess what happens?
8, 9, 10.
How come none of us are sitting together?
This time of year, we're lucky to get on the same plane. 11, 12, 13. Where's Kevin?
14.
Psych! Anyway, so just to summarize this next part real quick, when they get to the airport, Kevin grabs his dad's bag because he's looking for some batteries for his Talk Boy. And so, because he's not paying attention, he ends up following this other guy who's wearing the same coat and has the same haircut as his dad, and wouldn't you know, thanks to the Wild West Mad Max, who cares, do whatever you want world of the 90s, Kevin gets on the wrong flight.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. Are you on this flight?
Yeah, so's my family.
We have to close up here. They're ready to go.
He dropped his boarding pass.
You're sure your family's on this flight?
Yeah, my dad ran in here right before I bumped into this lady.
Board him.
Oh, you know, you just gotta love that 90s apathetic optimism where everyone's just like, whatever, it'll be fine. Anyway, so like I said, Kevin ends up taking the wrong flight, and instead of heading to Florida, he goes all the way to New York City.
Oh no, my family's in Florida and I'm in New York. My family's in Florida. I'm in New York.
So because he has his dad's bag with the money and credit cards and all that stuff, we get the inevitable montage of Kevin going around the city, seeing the sights, and just doing like whatever a 10-year-old kid does. But in the middle of all this, guess who we run into?
Oh, what's the matter?
That's right, would you believe the Wet Bandits are back at it again? This time in New York City, where everyone just kind of looks like them anyway. So later on, Kevin makes his way over to the Plaza Hotel. Now he goes there because he saw it in a commercial earlier in the movie when he was watching every kid's favorite 90s game show, Ding Dang Dong.
Guest of the new celebrity Ding Dang Dong.
Which is also the name of like every Asian character in a Hollywood movie until like 4 years ago. Anyway, when he gets there, he meets no one special, but he comes up with a foolproof plan to try and get a room.
A TV, and one of those little refrigerators you have to open with a key.
Plaza Hotel reservations, may I help you?
Howdy, Jim. This is Peter McAllister, the father.
Yes, sir.
Like a hotel room, please.
Yes.
I feel like anyone who's worked in customer service has probably met at least like 3 people who sound just like this. Okay, next person in line, please.
Howdy, do. I'm Peter McAllister, the father.
I'm sorry, I can't even finish the joke. Anyway, so thanks to the magic of Hollywood, Kevin's able to check into the hotel by telling them that his dad's gonna come later. But not before Tim Curry and Rob Schneider just show up out of nowhere and start getting suspicious.
Cedric,
Yes?
don't count your chips in public. And find out everything you can about that young fellow.
Front, please.
So Tim Curry's character, whatever his name is, who cares, sneaks into 10-year-old Kevin's hotel room in the middle of the night. Very normal thing to do. But Kevin makes him think his dad's there by inflating that clown thing and setting up this whole rope and pulley system, all in the time it takes Tim Curry to walk from the door to the bathroom. I mean, can you believe this kid's movie isn't 100% logical? Now the next day, we flash over to the Wet Bandits once again, who at the halfway mark of the movie suddenly become relevant.
We don't have the equipment to pull off anything big. You know, your banks, your jewelry stores. The only stores that are going to have cash on it are the ones that deal in moderate priced goods.
Right. Candy stores.
9-year-olds rob candy stores, Mom. This is what I had in mind.
So they head on down to Duncan's toy chest to scope out the place, but wouldn't you know, Kevin just so happened to take a limo to the same toy store so he could buy whatever this is. And while he's buying this thing, the guy at the register tells him that all the money they make that day is going to be donated to the local children's hospital. Now after this, Kevin leaves the store and he's standing out on the sidewalk, and guess what happens?
Hiya, pal.
So they end up chasing him all through the city over like 10 blocks or so, all the way back to the hotel, which is right across the street from the toy store. Anyway, Kevin gets back to the hotel, but right that moment, he finds out that they found out that the credit card he used was reported stolen by his dad. And so now Marv, Harry, the hotel staff, and just like every adult in New York City apparently, chases after him.
Come to Papa.
Round trip to Miami. What's the matter? Get on the wrong plane, Squirt?
You know, this doesn't really have anything to do with anything, but like I just noticed that Joe Pesci was only like a few inches taller than 10-year-old Macaulay Culkin in this movie. Anyway, so then, just out of nowhere, they explain their entire plan to Kevin right there in the middle of the street.
We're busted out of the clink and we're doing fine. We're gonna be doing even better. Because we're not robbing houses anymore. Now we're robbing toy stores. At midnight tonight, we're hitting Duncan's toy chest. 5 floors of cash.
You know, I love how, like, in the first movie and now in this one, these guys walk around in the middle of the day just yelling who they're gonna rob and when and how they're gonna do it. I mean, greatest criminals of all time, I tell you what. So then Kevin realizes they're in public and there's no reason for him to stay with these two. So he touches this girl's posterior and makes her think that they did it. Which, I mean, you know, if anyone looked like they went around doing some bone touching, it's these guys. Anyway, so then she just kind of like... and Kevin runs away.
Thanks.
Get him, will you?
You in the park.
What are you doing, Flirt? Get him.
So after he escapes, Kevin looks in his dad's address book and finds out that his dad's brother, aka his uncle, I probably should have just said that, just so happens to live in New York City. But, as per the first movie, they're currently living in Paris, so the house is all locked up and empty, which leaves Kevin all alone walking around this neighborhood in the middle of the night.
scary out there.
Ain't much better in here, kid.
You know, I feel like this guy's probably written at least like 35 articles on WikiFeed. Now, after running around and screaming some more, eventually Kevin runs into the final boss of New York City.
I'm sorry I screamed in your face. I'm just trying to help. Right?
Yeah, everybody, how dare you? Did you learn nothing from the first movie? Okay, if you see someone staring at you like they want to cut your face off and put it in their collection, they probably just want to be friends, all right? I mean, come on, what's the worst that can happen? So after hanging out with Madame Thenardier for a while, we see Kevin walking around somewhere, and something catches his eye.
At midnight tonight, we're hitting Duncan's toy chest.
You can mess with a lot of things. You can't mess with kids on Christmas.
And so, just like last time, Kevin designs and sets up this huge, like, Rube Goldberg machine of life-threatening traps and flamethrowers and iron bars that weigh at least 10 times as much as he does to stop the wet bandits from stealing all the Toy Store money that's supposed to go to the kids. And of course, he sets all this up in like 35 minutes, which really makes me feel dumb, you know, and I'm just sitting here trying to build a table for my IKEA for 3 hours, like, But anyway, so Kevin finds them in the toy store and leads them back to his uncle's empty house, and the next 20 minutes of the movie is basically just this. Now, after these two guys have died at least like 12 times, finally Kevin calls 911, which he could have done at any point in this movie, like when he first got to New York, when Harry and Marv told him their master plan, after he escaped, or any time that night. But no, you see, the truth about these movies is like Kevin's not defending himself or saving the children or whatever. No. See, Kevin is hunting these men for fun. Anyway, so in the end, Kevin's family finally arrives in New York City because when Kevin's dad's credit card was reported stolen earlier in the movie, they found out where he was. And then there's this whole big reunion where Kevin's mom is like, "Oh, Kevin, I'm so sorry." And then Kevin's like, "Hey, Mom, can you believe they made 3 more of these movies?" Now, at the very end, you know, the whole family's together. It's Christmas morning, and turns out Tim Allen's been real busy this year.
Are you sure we're in the right room?
And then after this, Kevin goes to say Merry Christmas to the bird lady in the park, and that's more or less where the movie ends. You know, I gotta say, I've seen both Home Alone 1 and 2 many times in my life. Like most of you, I assume, because, I mean, this time of year, they just play these movies on TV, like, nonstop. But I think I actually like the first one better. I mean, in the first movie, the setup is actually understandable. You know how, like, the storm comes in, cuts the power, cuts the phones, and Kevin's left home alone to defend the house. Like, the basic premise of the movie is fine. But Home Alone 2 is just about Kevin trying to quench his thirst for vengeance. Like, he does all this mostly because he has nothing else to do. Anyway, so thanks to the success of the first 2